This video is going to be all about a story my dentist told me. And I know this is a different format of video than I normally do, but I hope you'll enjoy it. It's a pretty sweet location on a walk. So shout out to Michael Bordenero, who is the only person who's ever done a walk and talk video as per the comments that I read, but I'm playing around. Shout out to Michael. But I'm going to flip this around so you actually flip it around this way. I don't know if that gives you a great scope of how cool this is. So let me do a little bit of editing magic here. And this will give you a little better scope of this lake and the homes that are on the lake. I am, believe it or not, I'm in Lake Worth, Florida, which makes a lot of sense in this neighborhood because all of these homes are on the lake and it's really pretty out here. But the spot I'm sitting on, you can see the trail behind me, is somewhat unique. I've never seen this type of feature before in this particular neighborhood. I'm here visiting my parents. I was out for a walk, but I wanted to showcase a story or share a showcase. That's a big word for share. Wanted to share a story that happened recently. I went to the dentist, who I'm friends with. I've been going to him for years. But shout out to my dentist. Shout out to dentistry. Shout out to all of the dentists out there. And I know you guys probably get a lot of heat. Most people don't like going to the dentist. Most people are afraid of them. And I'm here to tell you that is nothing to be afraid of. But I went for my checkup, got some x-rays, got my teeth cleaned, met with the dentist. He told me how great I'm doing. And he shared a story with me, which I felt was a very unique perspective. I had certainly not looked at the housing market through this lens before. And although I have done videos where I have found half price homes for sale, those homes were disasters. And there's only been one that I can think of off the top of my head where I actually took the time to make a video about it, but it was in the canyons. It was in my neighborhood, and I felt a obligation to share what's happening in my specific hyperlocal market. But he had a different perspective, and he shared about the fact that he spent a fortune making this house exactly how he wanted it to be. And although it was a newer home, when him and his wife were done updating, upgrading, macking this house out, it was exactly what they wanted. It was their dream home. They were totally satisfied with this house. But a new development opened. And so on the weekend, they did what a lot of people do. They went and explored. They were looky-loos. They were curious. But perhaps they were a better neighborhood. And to be clear, there's no such thing as really perfect neighborhood for you. But there is a such thing as, is it perfect for you? But they were thrilled with their home. They were thrilled with their neighborhood. They were thrilled with the schools and the people that lived in it. They were totally satisfied. But they went out on a weekend to check out this new development of new homes, new construction, and wanted to see what was going on. So many of these builders, when advertising or starting a new community, they'll have a big party. They'll have a grand opening. It'll be a big deal. In fact, all of the top producers or top realtors will be invited. All of the brokerages will be invited. All of the public will be invited. It's a pretty fun thing. And so they went. And when they got there, again, keeping in mind, they had zero interest, zero intent of buying a home. When they got there, they fell in love with the home and they weren't ready to make a decision. So they didn't. They went home, they thought about it and came back a few weeks later and had made a new choice. They had made a different decision. Despite the fact that they loved their home, they decided they wanted to buy a new one. And when they got there, what they learned is that the home prices had increased by $50,000 in 2 weeks. This was a few years ago. To be clear, that's not uncommon. It is absolutely not uncommon for new construction, specifically in my market, for the builders to increase lot premiums, increase home prices. That has been the standard over the last few years. And perhaps that will change in the future. But so far, at least in my hyperlocal market, that's not the case. And I know that dynamic is very different in other places. But getting back to them. So they made the decision, they went back, they were ready to make the decision. They learned that the home that they could have bought for $50,000 less 2 weeks previously was still available. It was just more expensive. They made the decision that they wanted to buy it anyway. And they went ahead and did so. Now, I know that my dentist has a thriving business. I know that my dentist has the means to be able to buy essentially whatever he wants whenever he wants to. I know that's not the case for many folks out there, but this is what happens in my market. This is what it's like in many of the communities where people are thinking about moving up. And so they did. He and his wife rationalized the decision to make the purchase, and they were extremely happy. But what shocked me was the way he described that home purchase, because he described it very simply put as, Chris, I bought the home for half price, which when I'm looking for a half price home, what I'm looking for is a home that is trading at half the value as to what the current value is. What he described is that his home has increased by double what he paid for it. He bought a half price home and he laughed about it. It was a joke and he's very happy with the decision that he made. But my concern is for many folks out there that are sitting on the fence. And to be clear, this is not to create fear of missing out. This is just being aware of the economic conditions and some of the conditioning that we are experiencing today as a society. There are lots of policies that I see being talked about that make me believe that the Florida home values are going to skyrocket. I know Patrick Bet David's out there, Valuetainment, shout out to him, future looks bright, but he talks about a reverse market crash. I have talked about a reverse market crash. What that really means is hyper home inflation, hyper home appreciation. It means that home values aren't going to go down, they're going to skyrocket. And I suspect that that's true. And without being political at all, there's a lot of folks out there, especially after this latest Tucker Carlson, Vladimir Putin interview, which if you haven't seen, you should go check out. There are a lot of folks out there that believe wholeheartedly that Trump is going to be elected. Well, Trump is a real estate guy. That is who he is through and through. And Trump is not a big fan of Jerome Powell, Big Papa Powell, despite the fact that he's the one who hired him for the job. He's made it clear he's going to get rid of him day one. Well, Jerome Powell, I think, has done a pretty good job at staying non-political. I think he's done a pretty good job keeping interest rates where they need to be in order to not have a massive disruption of the economy. And if he's gone and Trump appoints someone who's also political and a real estate guy, I suspect he will loosen the credit market big time, which will create a massive bubble, which makes the last bubble and every other bubble that we've seen in terms of housing look like a joke, look like it was nothing in comparison. I think the market's going to rip. And while there are plenty of things that tell me that there should be systemic failure, and I think that the markets should be allowed to fail. I think the system should have been allowed to fail. What I think is irrelevant. The market simply does not care about my opinion. And the market's always right. So what is the point of this video? It's simply just to share, one, a pretty cool place where I found a nice spot to sit next to a lake. We got Old Glory flying in the background, but I wanted to make a video, show you how pretty that particular spot is, and remain committed to telling you the truth about what's happening in my market. If you need help with anything, please do not hesitate to reach out. There will be a link at the end of this video if you want to contact me, or call, text, DM, whatever works for you. We are always here to help, because who you hire matters.